Mm, coffee. Pastor Joe's back on the coffee. But it was a conscious decision on my part. A lot of people sent me stuff on it, and I did more research on coffee. And actually, 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day is good for you. It's better than not drinking coffee. And so I'm keeping it at 2. I beat the need to have coffee. I went for a week with no big deal, just to show myself I could. And so that's where I'm at with coffee, which is not what this video is about. I get a bazillion emails. I don't read them all. Some are important and I don't read them. Yeah, it is what it is. But I found an email. I need more of the coffee. Wait. Please. My mustache is getting long. Gotta keep the coffee from dripping on my shirt. Hey, I found an email that was sent a while ago by Rebecca, and she asked me some questions that I get asked fairly frequently, and I've never really addressed them, and so I thought I would kind of use her email as a catalyst for this video for y'all and answer them. And the first one she asked me is, hey, why do you store wheat as opposed to flour? I get it. Grinders are expensive. We bought one called, man, what was that called? If you go to my blog, which I haven't updated in years, but the info's still there, vikingpreparedness.blogspot.com, and type in wheat or grinders or something. I did a big review on them. I think it was called the Family Living Grain Mill. It was about as big as a carton of cigarettes, and it cost about $65. And that would grind wheat okay. We'd usually put it through it twice to get flour, and it was only $65. And then, of course, they go up from there, right? We finally, years later, got the Country Living Grain Mill, which cost, a lot of money. But I get it. You don't have a grinder. You don't want to buy a grinder. You don't want to grind the wheat. And so you're thinking, hey, why don't I get flour instead of wheat? Here's the deal. When one grinds wheat, you do something where you break it up and the bran comes out or something. I don't know. The germ gets out. Once that happens, it'll go rancid after a shorter period of time than if you just store plain wheat. If you store hard wheat, the way that I talk about in many of my videos on putting up food, excuse me, it'll last forever, right? Properly stored. They got wheat out of Pharaoh's tomb and it still sprouted. All right, so long-term food storage, wheat is the way to go. And I get it, if you don't have a grinder yet, store the wheat anyway. If you have to, you can use a brick on your sidewalk and grind the wheat, or you can make porridge. There's other ways around it, but having the food is the hardest part. So that's one thing. The other thing that she asked me here, and I have her email right here. When I store corn, am I using people corn or corn used for animals, feed corn? The answer is feed corn. Why? Because it's cheaper. 2, it tastes just fine. We don't eat it like corn on the cob. It comes in kernels already, and if you take those kernels of feed corn and grind them up in a grinder and then put some flour with them, use the recipe that's on a box of cornmeal that you buy in the store to make corn muffins. Cornbread, they taste like corn. It's delicious. And there's other ways you can make that corn, which again is another video for another time. But to answer the question, yes, we use field corn, and it's just animal feed. Doesn't have insecticides on it, doesn't have fertilizer on it. We get it at a feed store. For those of you who don't have a clue what a feed store is, you need to move. The Walmarts around here and the TSCs, what does that even stand for, TSC? Tractor Supply Company. It's kind of like an Ace Hardware store for farmers. They have them out in the country. They're all selling feed corn right now that you put in your deer feeder. That would be fine to use as well. And I think it's cleaner than field corn. So there you go. And it's cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap. What are your plans for long-term meat storage? I have heard people doing cured meat. Just not sure the type of storage that would work best. Our long-term meat storage, long-term, is on the hoof, right? Um, if you look at research done about the Great Depression, white-tailed deer were almost wiped out in this country. It took a long time to bring them back to the numbers now where they're a pain in the neck and they're running into cars, because they're just so darn easy to kill. And so you can't depend on the deer running around for long-term food storage. You're going to have to raise your own critters. And so that's what we do. And we raise primarily goats and chickens. We also have some ducks. And truth be told, we don't eat a lot of the chickens. We eat the old roosters. The hens kind of go by the wayside by natural predation because we free range. So we don't eat a lot of chicken that we grow. That might change. And another thing, humans, Americans, we eat too much meat. We eat more meat than we need. How about that? Not a judgment. I don't care. I eat a lot of meat. But we could get by on less. And so there's that. If you live somewhere, I don't, where you can fish, like on a river or a lake or something like that, that's a great meat on the fin. It's a great protein source right there. And so primarily we're relying on our goat herd. Now, she also asked the question, why goats, not cows? Fair question. Here's the reality. I live out here. It's primarily woods. We have cleared some land. We have made some pasture. But for cattle, you need grass in large amounts. And because we're aiming for self-sufficiency, we would have to have even more grass because we would want to hay some of it ourselves and put that up for wintertime. Now, winters here in the Ozarks are mild. One doesn't need a lot of hay to keep their cattle going through the winter, but you still need hay. And that's just another whole industry that I don't want to add right now. So that's one. So what about the goats? You see that? The goats eat that. What about when all the trees fall off the leaves? Goats are a lot like deer. What do deer eat when there's no leaves on the trees or brush? They can live out there. Now, we do buy them, usually a bale or two, round bale or two, of hay that we supplement their food in the winter time. But you wouldn't have to. And we don't have to feed them anything. We don't need pasture. My wife ties them out to different trees and things. About every other day, she'll move the goats to a different spot, just like 15 feet away, and they eat all this brush down and stuff. And so they're free to feed. Another thing, if you have a medical problem with a critter that requires a vet, if you have cattle, yes, you can take cattle to the vet. In the country, they have vets that deal with large animals, and they have pens and everything at their place. But that means now you need a truck to pull the trailer. You have to get the cow, the bull, whatever, the steer, into the trailer and take it to the vet, or you pay a big fee to have the vet come to you. All right. As opposed to a goat, you could throw a goat in your Prius and go to the vet, right? So there's that. It's a lot easier to transport goats. Another thing, goats versus cattle. Picture a grid down scenario. No electricity, right? No propane, no more propane other than what you have already on your site. Refrigeration pretty much gone, right? So you kill a cow, you've got lots of meat that you have to deal with right now. We kill a goat here on the community, and we can turn that into like 2 meals, maybe 3 if you stretch the bones out and make a soup or a stew or something like that. But we as a group can eat a goat, pretty much in a meal or 2. We were thinking about having 2 herds, running a pygmy goat herd, Nigerian dwarf kind of thing, for meat. Because 1, they pack on a lot of muscle, and 2, there's not a lot of leftovers. When you live like we do, you don't want leftovers. You want to kind of eat what you made, and that makes things simple. And so that's the answer to those questions. That's how we do it. We do can some meat. We shoot deer, and we have a freezer at a friend's house that we use, but we also can it. We raw pack can it and stuff like that. And so you could do that, but really we would rather just eat it as we get it. All right, so hey, I hope that was helpful to some of you all. Just remember, do what you can with what you got where you're at. Do a little bit every day. The times they are a changing, and I want you all to do well. I really do. All right. Hey, I'll see you out there.